The same intelligence that grows a forest is the one reading these words through your eyes right now. You've been told you're small, a single person. One set of hands, one bank balance, one shot at making something real before the years run out. That story is the heaviest thing you carry, and it's the one thing standing between you and the life you keep sketching in your head. By the time we're done, you'll understand why the line between you and everything you want to build is thinner than you ever let yourself believe. There's an old idea, written more than a century ago, that lands harder today than the day it was printed. The mind moving through you and the mind moving through the entire universe are the same in kind. They differ only in degree. Picture a single drop of water lifted from the ocean. Hold it in your palm. It's small enough to evaporate in an hour. Yet that drop is not a different substance from the sea it came from. Same salt, same chemistry, same essential nature. The only thing separating the drop from the ocean is size. That's you. That's the working theory of your whole existence, and almost nobody acts like it's true. Here's what that means in plain language, away from the poetry. The creative intelligence behind every system you admire runs through you at this exact moment. Not a watered-down copy. The real thing, at a smaller scale. So when you sit down to build something, a body, a business, a skill, a name that means something, you're a local outlet for a current that's already on. The question was never whether you have access. The question is how much of it you're willing to let through. And that question terrifies people, because it removes the excuse. Think about what most of us do with the idea of potential. We treat it like weather, something that happens to us. Some people got the talent, the family, the timing, the lucky break, and the rest of us are stuck working with scraps. That belief is comfortable. It lets you off the hook. If the ocean only poured itself into a chosen few, then your small life isn't your fault. But the drop and ocean teaching pulls that comfort right out from under you. If your mind is the universal mind at a smaller degree, then the cap on your output is your awareness of your own nature, and awareness can be trained. So why does the drop forget the ocean? Walk through a normal week. You wake up already behind. You scroll before your feet hit the floor, pouring other people's lives into a mind that hasn't even decided what it wants yet. You spend hours reacting to messages, to deadlines, to the low hum of comparison. By night you're empty, and you call that being tired. What actually happened is subtler. You spent the whole day treating yourself as a drop with no connection to anything larger, a separate, anxious, leaking thing. The teaching says the connection held the whole time. You just stopped placing your attention on it, and attention is the only valve you've got. Picture 2 glasses of seawater. One sits in a dark cabinet, the other sits on a windowsill catching afternoon light. Same water. One stays cold and forgotten. The other warms, moves, comes alive. Everything changed in what reached it. Your inner life works on that exact principle, and most people keep themselves in the cabinet without ever knowing there's a window. So how do you find the window? That's where the work actually starts, and it's less mystical than you'd hope. The first move is the hardest because it's invisible and nobody claps for it. You have to guard what enters your mind the way a serious builder guards their time. The old text calls it the thought you hold, and is brutally literal. Whatever you dwell on, you're handing to the largest creative force there is and saying, make this real. Most people hand it a stream of doubt, resentment, and half-finished worry, then wonder why their outer life looks chaotic. The drop stays connected to the ocean the entire time. The ocean simply answers what you actually focus on, not what you claim to want. Sit with that for a second, because it cuts both ways. The same channel that amplifies your fear amplifies your aim. It's one current, and you're the one deciding what flows down it by where you let your mind rest. This is why the people who build real things are almost boringly protective of their inner state. They're not being precious, they understand the mechanism. But here's where it gets demanding. Knowing this and living it are different planets. You can read the drop an ocean idea, feel a jolt of recognition, and go right back to leaking. Because a single insight doesn't rewire a decade of habit. The teaching was always sold as a discipline, a daily practice of stillness, of holding one clear image until it stops feeling like fantasy and starts feeling like the memory of something not yet arrived. That word daily is where most people quietly quit. They want the ocean's power on a drop schedule. One good session, then weeks of forgetting. Real connection is a maintained line. Consider how you already know this from the physical world. You can't lift heavy once and stay strong. You can't learn a craft in a weekend and call it yours. The body teaches you the law of consistent contact, whether you like it or not. The mind runs on the identical law, except the proof comes slower and quieter, so people assume it's broken and walk away. 2 weeks before it would have shown, the ocean was always going to answer. They stopped maintaining the line. So what does maintaining the line actually look like for someone building a life on their own terms? Strip away the incense, and it's startlingly practical. It starts with stillness you schedule, like a meeting you can't miss. A few minutes where you stop being a drop reacting to 1,000 pressures and sit as the thing that contains them. Not to escape your goals, to remember the scale of what's actually working through you. From that place, you choose a single clear picture of what you're building, and you hold it without flinching, without immediately listing the reasons it won't happen. That flinch is the leak. The whole practice is learning to hold the image steady long enough that your deeper self files it under real. Then you get up and you act like a person who's connected to something vast, which mostly means you drop the desperation. Desperation is the drop screaming because it forgot the ocean. Calm, focused work is the drop remembering. And the strange thing people notice when they actually do this, the work gets better. Sharper decisions, less flailing. More of those moments where the right move just arrives, clean, like it was waiting for you to quiet down enough to hear it. That clarity is the larger intelligence reaching a mind that finally cleared a channel for it. Now let me push on the part that'll be tempting to skip, because it's the part that separates this from cheap motivation. The teaching never says think happy thoughts and money rains down. It says the universal mind is impersonal, like electricity. Electricity will light your home or end your life with the same indifference. It conducts whatever you connect to it, full stop. So the responsibility lands entirely on you. There's a law, running with perfect consistency, and you either learn to work with it, or you keep wondering why your results never match your potential. That's a heavier truth than affirmations. And it's the one that actually sets you free. Because if it's a law, it's reliable. Laws play no favorites. The same principle that built every fortune and finished every creation is available to a 19-year-old in a small room with a cheap laptop, provided that person learns to think with the depth and steadiness the law responds to. The barrier was never access. We keep arriving back here because it's the thing your conditioning fights hardest. You are trained to see yourself as the exception, the one for whom it doesn't work. The drop convinced it's somehow made of something other than ocean. So how do you break a conviction that deep? Slowly and on purpose. You start by catching the moments you talk yourself small. Watch your own narration for a single day. Notice how often you pre-shrink your ambitions before anyone else can. Notice the reflex to add, not for someone like me, to every big idea. Each of those is the drop denying the sea. You replace it with something quieter and far more dangerous to your old story. The calm assumption that the intelligence behind everything is the same one you're using to read this, and it has always had more than enough to spare. There's a discipline the old writers called mental diet, and it's exactly as unglamorous as it sounds. For a set stretch of time, you refuse to entertain a single thought of lack about yourself or your work. When the worry arrives, you let it pass without handing it the current. Try it for even 3 days, and you'll discover how addicted your mind is to its own smallness. That discovery is the breakthrough. You can't change a pattern you never noticed you were running. This is the inner work nobody posts about, because it doesn't photograph. There's no before and after, just a quiet, repeated choice to stop volunteering your power to your fears. And while you do that invisible work, the visible work keeps going. This is the piece the lazy version of spirituality always drops. You still ship the project, you still train the body, you still send the message, write the page, make the call, do the unsexy reps that nobody sees. The mind work is the thing that makes your action land differently. 2 people can take the same step. One takes it from the cabinet, cramped and scared, leaking energy into doubt. The other takes it from the windowsill, lit up, moving like the outcome is already settled. Same step, wildly different gravity. The world feels that difference even when it can't name it. Let me make this concrete, because abstract talk of oceans and currents is easy to nod at and impossible to use. Say you're building something of your own. A clothing brand, a software tool, a channel, a body that finally matches the one in your head. You've got the same 24 hours as the person 3 steps ahead of you, the same access to the same internet, the same human brain that's been running the species for 100,000 years. On paper, you're not missing a single resource they have. So what's the actual gap? It lives in the quality of the mind you bring to the work. One of you sits down already defeated, glancing at competitors, measuring the distance, flinching at every metric. The other sits down, sourced, calm, certain the right path will reveal itself through the doing. Hand both of them the identical task and watch how differently it goes. The first mind is a drop fighting the ocean. The second is a drop letting the ocean move through it. And this isn't soft talk. There's a hard observable mechanism underneath it. When your mind is cramped with fear, it narrows. You miss options that are sitting right in front of you. You read a setback as proof you were never meant for this, and you quit the exact week before the thing would have turned. When your mind is open and steady, it widens. You spot the connection, the angle, the small adjustment that changes everything. Same problem, same person, completely different field of vision. The teaching gives that widening a name and a source. It's what happens when the larger intelligence gets a clear line into a quiet mind. You don't manufacture genius. You stop blocking it. So the discipline isn't about forcing brilliant ideas. It's about clearing the static so the ideas that were always available can land. Think about the last time you solved something hard, really solved it, not grinding, but the moment the answer arrived. Where were you? Almost certainly not hunched at the desk white-knuckling it. You were walking, showering, half asleep. The instant you stopped straining, the solution surfaced. People laugh that off as a quirk of the brain. The old teaching reads it as a law in plain sight. The answer comes when the drop stops thrashing and goes still enough for the ocean to reach it. You've already lived this dozens of times. You just never recognized it as evidence of something you could deliberately use. Now imagine running your entire build from that state on purpose, instead of stumbling into it by accident once a month. That's the leverage nobody hands you, because it can't be sold in a course or installed as an app. It's the most personal thing there is, and it's also the most powerful. While everyone around you is chasing one more tactic, one more hack, one more guru's 7 steps, you're working on the one variable underneath all of them. The state of the mind doing the work. Fix that, and the tactics start working that never worked before. Skip it, and you'll collect 100 strategies that all quietly fail, because you're running them from a cramped, frightened, leaking place. The strategy was never the bottleneck. The state behind it was. Here's a harder thing to hear. The reason this teaching has survived for over a century, passed quietly from one builder to the next, is that it asks for something almost nobody wants to give. Full ownership. The moment you accept that your mind and the universal mind are the same in kind, you lose every external villain. The economy isn't doing it to you. Your background isn't doing it to you. The algorithm, the timing, the people who got there first, none of them are the reason you're stuck. The reason is the degree to which you've opened or closed the channel you were born holding. That's an unbearable amount of responsibility. And it's also the most freeing news you'll ever receive. Because what you alone control, you alone can change. Most people will read that, feel the weight, and quietly hand the responsibility back. They'd rather have an excuse than a key. Let me give you the honest timeline, because false promises are how people get burned and quit. You will do this practice, and some days nothing will seem to happen. The image won't hold, the doubt will win. You'll feel like a fraud sitting in silence pretending you're connected to the universe while your inbox screams. Keep going anyway. The ocean reaches the drop on its own schedule, responding to the steadiness underneath your moods. The whole game is staying connected to the larger truth on the days it feels least true. Anyone can feel powerful after a win. The practice is feeling sourced when there's no evidence yet. That's the discipline. Most won't do it. That's also why most stay drops, who never suspect what they're part of. There's a question worth sitting with before we land this. If the connection is always there, why does it feel so absent most of the time? Because feeling and fact run on separate tracks. The drop doesn't feel the ocean. It feels small, exposed, surrounded by air, about to evaporate. None of that changes what it's made of. Your feelings of smallness are real as feelings and useless as evidence. They report your mood, never your nature. The whole maturity of this practice is learning to act from what's true, even when your feelings are voting hard against it. That's not denial, it's refusing to let a passing mood overrule a permanent fact. And the more you practice that, the more your feelings slowly come into line with the fact. The order matters, the conviction comes first, the feeling follows, never the reverse. Wait to feel powerful before you act powerful, and you'll wait your whole life. Notice how this flips the usual advice. You've been told to chase confidence, to fix your mindset before you move, to get yourself into the right headspace first. The teaching runs the other direction. You assume the connection, you act from it, and the inner state catches up to the stance you've already taken. A drop doesn't earn its way back into the ocean. It only has to stop pretending it left. That's a lighter weight to carry than the endless project of fixing yourself, and it's also far more honest about how change actually happens. You move, and the feeling reorganizes around the movement. So stop waiting to feel ready. Readiness is the reward at the end, never the ticket at the door. One more thing, because it's the piece that turns this from an idea into a way of living. To teaching says the universal mind is in everything and everyone, which means the same intelligence moving through you is moving through every person you'll ever work with, sell to, learn from, or build alongside. That changes how you carry yourself. You stop seeing the people ahead of you as a wall and start seeing them as proof. Same ocean, further along in opening the channel. You stop seeing competitors as threats and start seeing the whole field as one current finding 1,000 outlets. The scarcity drains out of you. And scarcity, more than any skill gap, is what keeps young builders small and frantic and quick to quit. Operate from abundance and you make cleaner decisions because fear stops driving the car. Now picture the version of you that's lived this for a year. Not perfectly, nobody's perfect at this. But consistently, you wake and your first act is to remember the scale you're operating from before you pull the world into yourself. You hold your vision with the ease of someone recalling a fact, not pleading for a wish. You move through your projects with a grounded patience because you've stopped believing your good has to be wrestled out of a stingy universe. You know it's the natural output of a connection you maintain. The desperation is gone, and in its place sits something far more attractive and far more effective. Certainty without arrogance. People will ask what changed. You won't fully be able to explain it. The substance of you stayed exactly the same. What changed is what you let reach you. And the projects? They start to move in a way that almost feels unfair. The doors that stayed shut for years swing open in months. The right person messages you back. The idea that wouldn't come arrives fully formed in the shower, like it had been waiting at the door the whole time. From the outside, it looks like a streak of luck. From the inside, you know exactly what it is, a channel you finally stopped pinching. The work didn't get easier. You stopped fighting the current and started riding it, and a drop moving with the ocean covers ground. A drop fighting it never could. This is the quiet revenge of the people who do the inner work nobody sees. While everyone else burns out chasing the next external fix, you've been tending the one thing that feeds all of them. It compounds silently, then all at once. Year 1 feels like nothing is happening. Year 2, people start asking how you got so lucky. The honest answer would take an hour, and they wouldn't believe the first sentence anyway. Come back to that drop in your palm. An hour from now it could be gone, evaporated, forgotten if you keep treating it as separate, isolated, alone, against a vast cold ocean it has no claim to. But tip your hand toward the sea and watch what happens. The boundary dissolves. There was only ever a moment of forgetting between the drop and the water it came from, and forgetting can end the instant you choose to remember. You are the ocean, briefly convinced you're a drop, holding the only key that ever locked the door. So today, before the noise reclaims you, sit still for 3 honest minutes and feel the size of what's actually working through your hands. Then go build like a drop that finally remembered the sea it never left.